constant variety of sport.
The man is incredible.
The thrill of victory.
Absolutely the best.
And the agony of defeat.
Oh, look at him go! Oh, baby. Oh, no!
This is ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Welcome to the motor racing capital of the world, Indianapolis, Indiana. We're here for the final day of qualifying. It's bump day, as this morning, the front row of 32 cars that have qualified had the traditional photo, and there was Sam Hornish, Helio Castroneves, and Dan Weldon. Who will complete the field? Teams will try anything, as they are down to their last resort.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort.
Qualifying took place yesterday after a total washout last week.
And he's on the run. So that's a quick one.
At the end of day one, 32 spots in the field of 33 were filled.
He's going up the ladder. Even faster than the other two.
This is the last chance to make it into the Indy 500.
This is my last resort.
Today is bump day. Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and to the Indianapolis 500 Bump Day Telegas presented by Capital One. On the track right now, some practice going on, no official attempts. You can see the pylon. 32 numbers have been completed. There's one spot remaining, and by the close of business today, the field will be full. Let's take you back to yesterday, and just in case you hadn't heard the news, Sam Hornish just blistered this racetrack just short of 229 miles an hour, guys, to take his first pole here at Indy.
Well, absolutely no surprise there. Penske and Ganassi have dominated the complete month, and Sam Hornish has been fast every day with the exception of one. I thought Helio had a shot, maybe taking a shot for his teammate Pole's position, but he certainly didn't get a chance to get that done.
Well, Scott, we all thought that Team Penske was in the front row. Whether it was Team Penske or Ganassi, one of those two teams was going to be on the front. Hornish has been number one throughout the month. My pick was Hornish, and he got it. But I really thought at the very end, the way Elliott was running at the end of practice, that he had a shot at that pole, too. He was awful close to Hornish.
The margin between the two of them after 10 miles, 67/100ths of a second. How about Team Penske? As you see them in the pit lane getting ready for their full tank practice, take a look at this. This is the 90th running of this event. 9 times Team Penske has had the front row. That means 10% of the time. And back in 1988, they owned all 3 positions on the front row. Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Well, Marty, you would think if you win the pole position, you might have a couple of hours off. That's not the case if you work for Roger Penske. You notice the T on Sam Hornish's car? Well, he's gone to the backup car, but it does have the qualifying engine, as does Helio Castroneves' practice car today. They made the engine change earlier today. They're going to shake these cars down. They're going to do a little pit stop practice, and then they're going to run what we call full tank sessions. That's Jerry Punch when they run the fuel out of the car to see what kind of mileage and handling characteristics are created. So for Roger Penske and his operation, there's no restful day today.
Well, Jack, last year she was a Cinderella story here in the month of May when she nearly won the pole and the race. And this month, she wins the award for poise and patience and perseverance as Danica Patrick, has been hunting for speed. And yesterday at 1:47 p.m., guess what? She finally found it. She went out for 4 consecutive laps of qualifying and turned her fastest laps of the month of May with a 4-lap average of 224.674 miles per hour. Good enough for 10th quickest on the field. How'd they find the speed? Where'd it come from? We'll have Danica tell you momentarily. And you know what? They're awfully confident about what could happen on race day. What's going on down in the Andretti pits? Here's Vince Welch.
Well, Jerry, the Andretti green team led by Michael Andretti and his 19-year-old son, Marco Andretti, certainly the 2 top stories on this team. As far as Michael Andretti is concerned, he qualified 13th yesterday, but in this morning's practice, he was not happy with his race car as the team has come out and started to work on their race day setups, continuing that work, I should say. And he was using words like edgy and jerky, certainly not the kind of descriptions that makes a race car driver comfortable. So Michael Andretti saying, we're running out of time, but we'll find it today. We've got to get that balance. As far as Marco Andretti is concerned, 9th quickest, the fastest rookie qualifier. He's been out today and had no problem getting back up to speed, well above 221. He was working primarily with Tony Kanaan today, getting his race car comfortable on a full fuel load and running in traffic. So for Marco Andretti, the fastest qualifier in the field of rookies, he's looking forward to making an impact in his first Indianapolis 500. Jamie?
Well, Vince, it is bump day, and there's one position left to fill before bumping can begin. Now, PDM Racing in the number 18 car hope to fill that 33rd position. The problem is they're in a brand new car that has only 2 laps. Why? 3 days ago, rookie Thiago Medeiros that you're looking at now behind the wheel put it in the fence. Now, he says it was a miscommunication between he and his spotter. The car was totaled. They didn't have a backup car. What they did, they went to other teams, Fernandez, Dreyer, and Reinbold. They borrowed a chassis. They borrowed all the parts. They've been working tireless, endless hours since 5 p.m. on Friday night. They just finished the car. It just passed inspection. Now, the team says they're watching Thiago closely, and if they feel he's not up to the task of qualifying for his first ever Indianapolis 500, Jimmy Kite is waiting in the wings. Guys?
Let's talk a little bit more about this situation. There is Jimmy Kite right there. How would you like to be this kid? I mean, he's already crashed the car. Here you go. You're going into this field today trying to punch your way in, and yet you know right over your shoulders another guy with helmet in hand.
You know, Marty, a lot of pressure for a 23-year-old rookie who's actually never qualified for this race before. This has been a goal of his for a long time. He won the 2004 Indy Pro Championship, but the pressure to get everything done in one day, especially when you've already crashed a car, knowing that other driver is sitting there waiting in the wings, I can imagine that pressure it puts on you, Rusty Wallace, simply from the fact that you know something, there's enough pressure here at Indianapolis without all that.
Scott, you're right. It's incredible pressure. I mean, how'd you like to go out there, wreck the car? He was trying to get out of a way for a car that was closing on him. He moved up a little high, got the right rear tire in the grace, spun it, and knocked the wall down. It was a big, big wreck. But he's been up there with that team, watching them rebuild this car, and the team has been busting their rear ends all night long trying to get this thing together. Now they got it on pit road, and they're threatening him with putting another driver in. This kid's got a gun to his head right now. I hope he uses his head. I hope he's calm and confident and just lays down some laps, because all he has to do is get it in that 33rd position.
We should also point out Marty Roth is also going to be making a qualifying effort today, and there are several other drivers. We'll show you their names a little bit later as we take you now through the first couple of rows that have qualified. And all this action, of course, took place yesterday. And here's our front row. And the difference between first and third was 1.1 seconds. That gives you an idea. And that's after 10 miles of qualifying. Let's talk a little bit about row 2, Scott.
Very impressive run for Scott Dixon. Gone along business very quietly this month. Tony Kanaan, probably the fastest guy in the AGR camp. But Vitor Mira, that small team with Panther Racing, a very nice run for that single car effort.
Row 3, Kosuke Matsuura from Japan. I mean, this guy knows how to stand on the gas. He's not scared of anything. So I expected these numbers out of Kosuke. Scott Sharp, solid as a rock. His car looks real good out there. And the 19-year-old sensation, Marco Andretti, he's the rookie of qualifying. He's looking good. I really love the way this guy's driving.
And in fact, Marco right there is already up to a speed of 221.9 on a full load of fuel. That is 4th quickest. As we will continue with more practice and qualifying when we come back. Indianapolis 500 Bump Day telecast presented by Capital One on ABC Sports. Brought to you by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And Star Motorcycles. We build it, you make it your own. And as you get a view of Monument Circle in downtown Indianapolis, we come back on the west side of Indy, the Speedway and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And let's talk about Memorial Day weekend. It means the greatest spectacle in racing. Join us here at the legendary Brickyard for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by Capital One next Sunday, May 28th, noon, right here on ABC. Well, you can hear by the sound of the roaring engines, the track is back to green. We are in practice mode, though, and that is Kosuke Matsuura as he is out on the track right now. Across the top of the screen, we'll show you the current practice speeds. You can see that Tony Kanaan has been the quickest and fastest so far at 2:23 and change. Let's check in now, get an update from Jerry Punch.
Thank you very much, Marty. And Danica, your patience paid off here in the month month of May. Great qualifying effort yesterday. Where did the speed come from?
Well, we just have been figuring out what makes our car work and what we need to make it comfortable. And when it's comfortable, you can trim it out. You can get speed out of the car. So Friday paid off for us hugely. We got so many runs in. We did over 100 laps of qualifying. So it was good.
You got faster each and every lap. How much was left in the car when you got back?
Well, actually, in the gear that I was in, we were running a little bit of duty time, which means it was sitting on the rev limiter. So I probably could have got a couple more tenths of a mile an hour out of it, but it was going to take 0.3 to match the next position. So it was going to take a pretty big chunk to move up.
You dodged the bullet just here a moment ago. Tell us what happened.
Well, I smelled something, and I smelled it going into turn 4, and I came on the radio. I said I got a weird smell, and I wasn't sure if it was Herta in front of me or me. So I backed off the throttle, and when I backed off the throttle, the car got a little loose, and then Buddy was behind me. Buddy got a little bit loose, and then smoke started coming in the cockpit. I have an oil leak somewhere. The engine didn't blow, but there's just something leaking, so it was burning and making a bad smell.
And guys, fortunately, she slowed down quick enough because her teammate behind her, they could have both easily been in the wall with the oil coming from beneath the car. Let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, Jerry, task 1 for Roger Penske's operation has just been completed. We told you at the top of the show that they had put their Honda qualifying engines in their backup cars. Both cars have gone out, turned one circuit, and Sam Hornish and Helio Castroneves are back here, and they're doing what we call a leak check. They want to make sure that everything's up to snuff before they let these guys go to see what kind of speeds they can establish. Fellas?
All right, thanks, Jack. As action is out on the racetrack right now, as it is open for practice, got a nice little 5-car freight train going through, and gives everybody an opportunity to sort of check out their car is going to handle in the draft.
Race day simulation, and very impressive for target Chip Ganassi. As soon as those guys went out, they went right very close to the top of the speed chart. Weldon at 223, Dixon at 222, but they're going out looking for traffic. Last week everybody went out, they just wanted to run by themselves, getting ready for qualifying. Here you see guys go out, go around slowly, as you know, Rusty, and wait for a group of cars because they need to simulate what they're going to feel on race day, and that's getting in amongst all that dirty air, that turbulent air that comes off the car that's in front. You need to see how your car is handling and not be surprised at what you have on race day.
Well, Scott, right now qualifying's over. They've hit the big reset button. Hey, they're done with all that stuff. Now it's time to go racing. And I've talked to Weldon and Dixon, and Weldon's pretty confident. He says, I got a better car than Team Penske does. I know my car's going to race better. It wasn't as fast in qualifying as they were, but I feel really, really good about our chances.
Right now we've got 13 cars on the track. The telemetry coming from Dan Weldon's machine. And you'll notice the speeds are not going to be as high as they were in qualifying, because now, as the guys have been talking about, we're in race trim, not qualifying trim.
And you know, one other guy that went very fast was Scott Sharp, who's now on the pit entrance lane. He's coming in. He was out there playing for just a little bit. Impressive for Canaan. We talked about that before. 223.4 very quickly. And maybe they have been working on that race setup all month, as we talked about, Rusty, because they knew they weren't fast enough for qualifying. We talked about that yesterday in the show. So why not go off and make yourself a great race car? A very cagey veteran.
These guys are really excited about this practice today, Scott. Andretti Green Racing, let's not discount these guys out. They know how to win races. Canaan, Dario, Franchitti, those are their two main guys in that team. They are really, really working on their handling. And I'll tell you, they are so happy to get qualifying done because they want to get these babies handling because they think they can win this race too.
And as we watch now, watch Dixon go around here, even at 100% throttle, as he's running in traffic, and that is the goal. If you can get off the throttle just a little bit going through the turn as he did right there in 4, but then get right back on it, you're trying to get that slipstream going down the front stretch. And what he's doing now with the car just directly in front of him, Al Jr., is to try and find out where his car works best. He'll come in and report it to the engineers in the pit box, make some changes, go back out and look for another pack of cars and try and do the same thing again. Now, the problem is sometimes, as you know, Rusty, sometimes you go out there and the thing scares you to death.
No, you got that right. I'm watching Al Jr. I want to take a look at this fella. This is the session that he's been looking for, where he can get all these guys out, get qualifying done. Okay, let's see what we got in this car. He told me he's going to take baby steps, Marty. He wants to run this car, get it in the field, stay out of trouble, take smooth steps, because when they line up for the Indy 500 next week, he wants to know he's got a great handling car. He doesn't care if he's the fastest car right now. He wants to know this thing's going to handle.
Well, right now he's at 216 miles an hour for his best lap here in the practice. That would be 21st on the speed chart. So still some work to do. And you have to remember, this is everybody's final day on the track until Carburation Day next Friday. Out, looks like he may be peeling off, so we'll pick up another car. We'll pick up Max Pappas. Mad Max managing to get into his second Indianapolis 500, qualifying in the 18th position at just over 222 miles an hour. And you saw his fast lap so far today at 219.
Well, he's got two goals. I think one he speaks of openly, and the other one I think he's being a little bit quiet on. Number one was actually get in this field and get finished and actually do a good result here for Eddie Cheever. But Eddie Cheever has openly said, Rusty, that he's going to be stepping out of the car and going over to his Grand Am program after the Indianapolis 500. We know somebody else is going to sit in that car for the remainder of the year, but you ask Max Pappas and say, you know, are you thinking of that? And he goes, no, I'm just thinking about the Indy 500 right now. But you were a driver also. You know, absolutely sure he's thinking, I got to do a good job here because maybe here's an opportunity for the remainder of the year.
Well, Max is a quality driver. He can drive stock cars. He can drive the 24-hour Daytona-style cars. He can run Indy cars. And Max wants a solid ride. That's what he's after. And last night he was on our show. He was pumping his fist. He was excited. He was really pumped up that he had this opportunity. And we were talking about the handling of the car. He said, man, these cars really steer hard. We had Scott Sharp sitting out over here, and Scott was going, I don't know what he's talking about. My car steers real easy. So you can definitely tell the caster in the front of these cars are definitely set up different. You know, I was talking to Max. He said, I come off of turn 2, let go of the steering wheel, and the car drives straight. And Scott's saying, well, that's not what you want. You know, the stock car drivers and everybody listen to this broadcast now know that you got to have a little caster lead on these corners and oval track. And I think that Max has got that thing off a little bit.
All right, let's get an update on Thiago Medeiros' situation. Jamie Little?
Well, I'm with Paul Diatlovich. He's the owner of PDM Racing in the number 18 car we were talking about earlier. This story unfolding. We started following you guys last night, working tireless hours, your entire crew, to get this car in particular out here. Paul, where do you guys stand right now?
Well, right now we're just undergoing preliminary installation checks on there, and we had a minor glitch, and we're parking it. We're going to rectify it here pretty quick and go back out and start practicing, working up to speed and making this year's race.
Walking over here, I saw Jimmy Kite, and I talked to him and I said, what's the situation? He said, basically, Paul told me yesterday to go up, get my physical, and basically be ready to get in this car. What's the situation with these two drivers?
Well, it's one of the things, too, is that Thiago was our driver that we came to the Speedway with. And, you know, we do have some sponsorship that he carries and obligations for that. However, we also have the obligations to seeing that car make this year's race. So we will give Thiago every effort, and not to be unfair to Jimmy too, if we have to, you know, make a change, we're going to try to make it here fairly quickly. But we do have to explore, you know, Thiago.
All right, Marty, we're going to follow this story throughout the day, but they will attempt to get this car in the field today.
You may know more about Thiago Medeiros by the end of the day than you ever imagined. This place creates special memories. The drivers in this year's race, no different. Stay with us.
The first memory that I can really think of was, you know, the year that Danny spun and won.
Danny Sullivan, and losing control of the car. The incredible move maybe ever in Indianapolis.
My very first one when I won Rookie of the Year, because that was an award you only have a shot at winning once. You know, my dad won the award, and I was able to win it. That was very special.
I would have to say the lap after the checkered flag coming in was probably the most enjoyable 2 minutes that I've had in a race car.
Saluting the crowd, Eddie Cheever has won the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
In Brazil, obviously Indy, it started when the Emerson Fittipaldi came here, and he won in 1989. And again, obviously Rick Mears in that time, again, is still like the man to beat. It was really nice to see them racing together side by side.
I also think of Michael sitting on my car as I was being pushed into victory lane, because Michael's never emotional, and you know, you could see him kind of getting choked up, and that made me the same way.
Back here at Indianapolis, let's talk a little bit about Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. It's LeBron James and the Cavs as they battle the Pistons with a trip to the conference finals on the line. It's today, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on ABC, home of the NBA Finals. Practice is still going on the track. We're still waiting for that 33rd position to be filled. Let's update you. We already showed you rows 1 through 3. We'll pick it up on row number 4 with Danica Patrick from Ray Hall Letterman Racing in the number 10 spot. And then it is 2 of the 3 Vision Racing team members, Thomas Schechter and Ed Carpenter.
And row 5, Michael Andretti out of retirement to try to win this event, something he's never done before. 2004 winner Buddy Rice and rookie Townsend Bell, who's looking for that Rookie of the Award championship.
And row 6, Brian Herta, got a great handling car. He's had a smooth month. He's real confident what's going on. Dario Franchitti, very unhappy with his qualifying effort yesterday, was getting really mad, slinging the steering wheel around, really getting upset. But when it comes race time, he's going to be all calmed down. Max Pappas, he just can't wait to get this thing started. He's happy to be in that car of Eddie Cheever.
If you weren't with us last night, Rusty gets really up on the tire on that, slinging that steering wheel around for Dario because it's $25,000. All right, you can see we've got 4 cars out on the racetrack right now. We're practicing, waiting for somebody to get up the courage and the speed to make it into the field. Now, we also have some other available drivers that could step in, including Tice Carlson, Thomas Enge, Davey Hamilton, John Erb, Jimmy Kite, and Roberto Moreno. Let's check in once again with Dr. Jerry Punch.
And guys, you may want to add to that list as far as drivers who have actually driven in the Indianapolis 500 and have had their physicals. Rick Treadway, we are told, has had a physical. He's a former Indy 500 starter, as has Jarrett Schrader, who's been giving 2-seater rides here. He's a former Indy 500 starter. And remember now, Anthony Foyt, the 4th, is here, and we have been told that he has not had his physical and has not purchased a license as of yet. And we are just being told here moments ago that Roberto Moreno, who was on our list here and would have been a candidate for the 4th Vision car, has headed to South Florida. Why? Well, he had a deal with his daughter. Today, his daughter graduates from high school in Miami. She had given him a waiver, said, Dad, if you're in a race car by Saturday afternoon, you can stay at Indy. If you're not in a car, I want you here for graduation. So guess what? Roberto Moreno is headed to South Florida to watch his daughter graduate. Guys?
I got to tell you, Roberto Moreno, if I'm going to jump in a car at the very last minute and go out there and expect to get this thing in Indy 500, now that's like having a gun to your head, too. I think his daughter did the right move by demanding that Pop comes down and watches him graduate.
All right, let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, Marty, as you watch Helio Castroneves out there, we were telling you all of the methodical changes that are made by Marlboro Team Penske. Well, Helio is trying a new helmet as well, trying to route the air back into that air box. We talked about that last week. And for Al Unser Jr., this is a challenge for this Geico car for a former winner. Al, what are you trying to find out here? Because it seems awfully elusive between you and your crew right now.
Well, what we're trying to do really is find some traffic out there that we can what the car's going to do in a long run. So fresh Firestones on here and then filling the car up and then going and searching for traffic.
The key, guys, I think you'll see with all these cars when we go for practice, as you alluded to, Rusty and Scotty, is the fact that you've got to find the traffic. Kind of like at Daytona or Talladega when you practice. You hold your breath because you're out there dancing with some partners.
And, Jack, that's exactly what you're doing, is looking for the partners. There's no sense in spending this day actually going and running by yourself and putting up some great numbers on the board, Rusty, because when you start the race, you're out there with 32 of your other friends and it becomes like a big swirl pot with the air going around the speedway. And if you don't have your car set up for actually the downforce levels that's needed to run in traffic, you're not going to be competitive, and then you're going to have a very long day and not get a result.
Well, Al's doing the right thing. He's doing this thing in steps, and he's staying dead on. He's in the car. He's got 4 new tires in this thing. He's ready to go out and practice. He just needs to find a bunch of guys. If you're just tuning in, you know, they are practicing. It's very sparse. There's 6 or 8 cars on a racetrack, and a 2.5-mile racetrack, Marty. It's hard to find a big pack like it's going to be in the 500 to really simulate what this car is going to do in the race.
Absolutely, and one of those cars that is going to be making an attempt a little bit later in the day to fill out this 33-car field is Marty Roth. Let's check with Vince Welch. What's going on, Vince?
Well, Marty Roth's car, as we stand here in the garage with Mark Weida, the car is in disrepair behind us as you guys are making some changes. You also got a little help from Vision Racing today. Why did you seek their input?
Well, Larry Curry and I have been good friends for about 25 years, and he's got all 3 of his boys out there running real good and real consistent. So we just were basically looking to reconfirm a couple things. One of the things we kind of pointed out is it takes a little while to make the change, so that's what we're doing right now. We'd rather go out there, be right, give Marty something that's solid, consistent. He's got other feedback from the other drivers, and we're going to go check it out and see what we can do.
How far away are you from trying to put this one in the show?
Well, I think we're about an hour from going out on the track, and it shouldn't take us long. We ran, 2:19 yesterday morning. We did 3 simulated qualifying over 2:17 yesterday before we had our spin. Unfortunately, when we did spin, we reversed the engine, and we had to change the motor, so we didn't get to make an attempt yesterday. But I think if everything, the little battle that we're working in, if we can make it consistent for him, I think we can be able to put it right in line pretty quickly.
There you go, guys. Shouldn't be long before we see Marty Roth on the line.
Well, it has been a very eventful month of May for Marty Roth. I mean, not once, not twice, 3 times he has done this, guys, and all 3 times somehow he stayed off the wall.
I've just never seen too many people actually have too many spins like that and never hit anything. One's coming out of 2, the other one coming out of 1 itself, actually. And, something, good thing there's pavement there, actually, which is the access lane for leaving the pit lane itself. And I'll tell you what, Rusty, I just can't think of anybody who's done this 3 times and not hit anything. I'm not sure if the theme goes, better to be lucky than good. He's a good driver, but, I mean, luck's been following around here.
Well, I hear you loud and clear, and I would like to have Vince ask him, what are they going to do to tighten this fella up now? He spun this thing out 3 times. Team manager, crew chief, whatever you want to call these guys, somebody needs to put a round of wedge in this baby or put some wing in it, tighten it down for him, because he spun it out 3 times now and hasn't hit anything here. I don't think he's going to make the 4th if he does it again.
Now, round of wedge, is that what you said? I know wedge of Leto.
I know you guys call it cross weight.
All right.
Okay, you move your little bars in the tubs and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I call it wedge, okay?
All right.
Okay, ding, ding, ding. I got to get in here, guys, because it's the bottom of the hour. And just in case anybody is tuning in, welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're here for Bump Day. It's presented by Capital One here on ABC. We'll be with you till 3 o'clock. I'm Marty Reid, along with Rusty Wallace, Scott Goodyear. Down on pit lane, we've got Jack Arute, Jerry Punch, Jamie Little, and Vince Welch. And right now we are in practice mode. We still have 1 position to fill in the 33-car field. No one has yet presented a car for qualifying today. And Thiago Medeiros comes back into the pit lane. He has gotten up to a speed of only his best at 214.781. That would put him dead last in the speed chart if he would qualify at that speed.
I can tell you that's an amazing speed for going out the first time. I didn't think Thiago could run 214.78 right off the bat with all that pressure on him. I thought he'd work up a little easier. I'm very impressed with the speed, with what these guys had to overcome throughout the night.
So while they make more adjustments on the race car, we're going to pick up Tony Kanaan. There he is out on the racetrack. And Kanaan right now is number 2 in the speed chart at 224.5 for today. You see his fastest lap of the month was over 227. And while we watch Tony, we should point out that Helio Castroneves has gone 225 to take over the top spot. All right. Let's go back. Thiago Medeiros was on the track, and let's go back and take a look at him as he was in turn 1 and see what happened on the race line, guys. They're telling us we should watch this one carefully.
Actually, now he's already into the turn, but you can see the car behind Sharp is right down by the white line, so there's no doubt that Medeiros is just high. So this was the same situation that happened the other day. He actually got a call from the spotter and said, hey, you have Matsura coming up very quickly going into the turn, and he wanted to, maybe he looked in his mirror and got high going into the turn, Marty. But what you have to do is that if you're going in the turn at 220 plus miles an hour, make sure you make the turn first, let the traffic pass down the backstretch. He actually has to simplify his steps here. He's getting confused, listening to the spotter, doing things that he shouldn't be doing, and this is just from a rookie.
Let me ask you, Rusty, we didn't see the entry. If he turned in too early, that would also be the net result also, wouldn't it?
Well, with knowing the mindset that he's under right now, I would guess they got him tightened up pretty hard, Marty. I mean, his car's pushing, the front end sliding. He probably got in the corner, got the front end slide, got up out of the groove, and caused that late entry like you were seeing just then.
All right, as you can see, practice still continues. We've got the telemetry on Tony Kanaan as he gets around and keeps motoring around the 2.5-mile oval here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, practice is going on here on Indianapolis 500 Bump Day. Our telecast presented by Capital One continues. have well over half a dozen cars on the racetrack right now. That is Scott Sharp right in front of Marco Andretti as they're finding out how each of their cars is handling in these turbulent conditions. We're seeing a lot of what we're going to see on race day 1 week from today, as a lot of teams are testing out how their cars are shaping up. And we've got the pointer right there, as you can see on Marco. Gives you an idea of his speed as he is traversing the 2.5-mile storied oval here at Indianapolis. Right now, Marco on the speed charts, 8th quickest on the day. His best lap was 221.9 miles an hour. Let's get more on A.J. Foyt's camp. Jack Arute, I understand A.J.'s got plans?
You always know A.J. always likes to play some late bump days. Remember 1 year ago where he made the phone call to Felipe Giafoni at a baby store telling him, hey, come out to the speedway, I'm going to put you in my car. Now, I've been following A.J. for so many years and talked to him earlier this morning. He insists that he is not going to bring a third car out, that Larry Foyt, his son, and Felipe Giafoni are the only cars that he will have in play. But by the same token, while I was back in the garage area, there was another Honda motor installed in one of the backup cars. When I asked A.J. about that, he said, I'm going to go to Houston as soon as I can. Then I won't be forced to make a bad decision.
So, maybe there will be some more drama, courtesy of A.J. Foyt. I mean, remember last year when Tony Stewart was here, and that got everybody buzzing for a while.
Well, we know it certainly has to be somebody on the list that we mentioned before that has been through the physical, has a current IRL license, so that's going to be the interesting thing. But with these folks that we're looking on track right now, I love this 100% throttle we talked about before. If you can do that in race trim, was exactly what's happening right now. And these guys have got upwards to 50 to 52 laps so far today. So they've been running that full tank testing to see how their cars will work. As Jack Arute talked about before, fill it up with 30 gallons of fuel, run it until it's empty, because the car will change characteristics as the fuel gets depleted.
And Rusty, what we're noticing right behind him right there is Tony Kanaan, and we've even seen as many as like Brian Herta and a couple of the other guys trying to freight train together, taking turns, leading, as Andretti Green is trying to help each other figure out how to go faster.
Well, the easiest way to do it is have the teammates do it themselves. With Andretti Green, you got 4 guys out there that are running, 5 guys, matter of fact, and they're able to run, dictate who they can pass and how it's going to do. In fact, you get in front one lap, I'll get in behind the next lap. So it's a good way to do it.
Now, you notice Tony Kanaan, wait a minute, that's not normal. He turned in at turn 1.
Well, that's usually something that you don't generally do. So either something he felt with a car which was not correct, and he got off the throttle very smartly. He's now on the pit lane access road, and will he come in or will he stay out? Very strange to see something like that happen.
I saw our RPM on the telemetry hit 10.5. That may be a little too high for that motor, you think?
Well, if it actually spiked up like that, that means something actually happened inside. So let's watch the telemetry on the bottom if we're going to get that. Possibly a lot of fuel. We didn't get a chance to see that early enough, but you know, he has been out there for quite some time, so the fuel is a possibility, but we'll have to see if they're going to do some work on that car in pit lane. He's coasting, so he doesn't feel like there's anything broken in the motor or in the transmission, because if he felt that, he would stop the car off to the side and not drive the car around the racetrack. It does sound like the motor's running very slowly, so maybe he had a fuel spike or something of that nature. If the motor is going away or something's happening to the transmission, most drivers with experience like Tony Kanaan would actually just pull to the side, not to oil the racetrack down all the way around the circuit.
Well, we'll find out if Tony did have a problem, as we've got 4 of the best pit reporters in the country patrolling pit lane as he pulls in. As Marco Andretti stayed out on the track. Marco turned that last lap just around 2:09, so obviously he either ran into some traffic or was in the slow process of slowing down. Jerry, let's get more on what's happening on Target Ganassi Racing.
All right, guys, let me tell you first that Mike Hall, the guy who's making decisions here, he's the managing director. He's in charge when Chip Ganassi is not here and Chip is not here. We are told they have no plans at this point in time to use their 3rd car. That would be one of the cars that one of those extra drivers you saw a moment ago would be going after. It would be available in an emergency, but right now the plans are not to run it. Now, what about the guys they did qualify yesterday, Dan Weldon and Scott Dixon? Now, what Mike Hall says they're trying to do right now is they are working on full tank runs. If you look at Scott Dixon, he has already been out today, 4th in the qualifying order. they are working on various levels of downforce here this afternoon. Why? Because we are told, if you look at the weather forecast next weekend, it will be possibly as much as 15 degrees warmer next weekend on race day than it has been the entire month. A warm front moving across Indianapolis, and so these teams now trying to use this valuable time. It is their last track time until carburation day. They're trying to see how much downforce they're going to have when the track gets appreciably warmer for the race next Sunday.
All right, thanks, Jerry. And remember, Target Ganassi is running their primary cars. Team Penske in their backup cars. We'll explain some significant points about both those. And there's Thiago Medeiros. Will he make it into the field? Come on back and find out.
Celebrate the spectacle. The 90th running of the Indianapolis 500 with the 2006 official commemorative program. Packed with history, milestones, and stories of the men and women of the legendary Brickyard. The 2006 Indianapolis 500 official event program contains historic postcards you can send to family and friends. Call 800-955-INDY or log on to IndianapolisMotorSpeedway.com to purchase your commemorative edition today.
Tune in later today, 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 as the drivers attempt one last dash to qualify for the Indianapolis 500. The final hour of Bump Day analysis, including complete starting lineup, ESPN2, 5 Eastern today. All right, let's go back. There's Tony back in the pit area. We'll talk to him in just a moment. We noticed just before the break, he was drafting his teammate. Take you through slow motion, guys.
Well, here you can watch the RPMs continue to increase. There's a 10.3 limiter on the car, but in a draft, it will go just a little bit above. Now, watch it get to about 10.470 and just hold. And we're not quite sure what exactly happened with the car, whether it was something to do with the engine and running out of fuel, but we need to follow up with that one.
And we're going to find out from Jack Arute.
Well, Tony Kanon's been watching the replay with the onboard telemetry, but you felt it and lived it. What happened?
Well, I got the best sensor that I have. It's my butt, and I felt it in my butt, and Kim came on the radio and thought it was a problem. So first of all, I don't want to spin and crash my race car. Second of all, I don't want to crash my teammate, and third of all, I want to keep the track clean for everybody to run all day. So it wasn't going to be fair if it was any oil leak or any problems that we're having on the engine to just make the track bad for the guys. They still have to qualify. Still managed to go through the short chute and come back to the pit, so everything's safe, and we're going to go check it out and go back out there.
Yeah, the great thing is with these cars, Tony, you've got so much telemetry, makes so many measurements, and actually the crew here with the telemetry found out at almost the same time that your butt told you there was a problem with the Honda motor.
For sure, and I think this is technology. Thank God we have them, because I believe in the future they're not going to need us anymore. Somebody's going to be able to drive the car from the pits.
What about the race car, the race setup? How do you feel?
I'm confident. I think it's not bad. I mean, we're still working on it. It's a green track. It's not a lot of rubber in there, so I'm pleased. It's still a lot of work to do, but it's a good start.
Vince?
With his boss, Michael Andretti, we were just hearing TK say that he was pretty happy with his race car. We get the feeling you don't have the same sentiment about yours.
Well, we'll see. We're going out now. We'll give it a try. We made some changes, so hopefully it'll be all right.
Tell us about how the car was this morning when you were out in practice.
It wasn't where I wanted it to be, but, you know, we're just working. I don't think conditions were very good this morning. It's so cold, and these tires don't like to run in the cold, so I think it'll be a little better now.
Have you put Tony Kanon's setup on the car at all?
We've been all over the place, so we've tried everything.
Jamie?
Well, Helio Castroneves, the only driver today in practice to turn over a 225, and he's starting second, by the way, for the Indianapolis 500. Helio, what are you guys working on today?
Well, definitely the race setup. We're trying to do also some pit stops, and that's why we are out of the car. There was a lot of people here, and I tried to avoid it, and I hit my nose with the tire, and we have to change. But other than that, everything is running really smooth. We just want to try. The weather seems to be good, a little bit windy than we're expecting, but we want to make sure the car is responding to any circumstances. So far, it's running good.
Tell us about your new helmet.
Say it again?
Your new helmet. It's the same one?
Yeah, no, we're trying a different helmet right now as well. We took a time to make sure anything like the car can be like as fast as we can, but also we try to find a little bit of that driver. So it's just different things. We don't know yet. I just want to be comfortable. So let's see what happens.
Little aerodynamic action you're looking for.
We're always looking for the small details. Believe it or not, this is a very small details. And Bell helmet seems to be doing a good job, and they be testing this helmet, seem to be less drag. Well, I didn't want to try too much of qualifying because, unfortunately, I mean, we didn't have enough time to try. So now it's time to do it. Hopefully, we'll be using.
Weird to see Helio Castroneves with a white helmet out here today, guys.
All right, you're watching Sam Hornish, our pole sitter for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500. 229.996 miles per hour. That time, the fastest lap of the month for Sam Hornish. His 4-lap average, 228.985. And I am with Scott Dixon. And Scott, you and Dan Weldon gave it a heck of an effort yesterday. Now that you've had time to think about it, how much did you leave on the table in qualifying?
It's always hard to tell. You know, we tried to get a few runs in the end, and then before everybody started lining up, you know, we were just about to go trim out again and see if we could pick up a little bit. But, you know, I don't think we would have had enough for a 29, but maybe a mile an hour or so. But I think, you know, they could have rolled out. I think the conditions got a little bit better, so it might have been just a bit of a shootout there. But to be honest, I don't think Team Target had enough for the pole.
You didn't have anything for him, I guess, on pole day. But what about race day? I see a lot of smiles here in the Target Ganassi pits.
The race setup has gone pretty well so far. You know, today we're struggling a little bit on our side. Dan seems to be pretty good at the moment, so we're going to go back and make a few changes. But I think we're definitely more confident for the races, you know, coming up. It seems like, you know, through the early part of the season, the Penskes have come back towards us a lot in the race.
All right, Scott Dixon here, along with his teammate Dan Weldon, trying to get ready for race day, trying to get a little more downforce. It's going to be warmer, and right now he's struggling while his teammate Dan Weldon is holding the track pretty well. Guys?
All right, thanks, Doc. Sam Hornish continues to motor around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's third fastest now, 223.8. We'll talk more about Team Penske and the decision to run the backup cars. The Indianapolis skyline in the background. We're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's Bump Day, and our telecast presented by Capital One. But also today, it's Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. LeBron James and the Cavs battle the Pistons. A trip to the conference finals is on the line. You'll see it all. 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on ABC, home of the NBA Finals. All right, before the break, we talked about the fact that Team Penske, as you see Sam Hornish still out practicing, they have gone to their backup cars. As far as we know, they're the only team that switched the motors, went to the backup chassis. Now, there is some advantages to doing this, Scott Goodyear, especially if they had a crash.
You know, it's neat to have a conversation with Rusty when we were off air about the differences between the two series, because Sam Hornish qualified his main car, Castroneves' T car, which is a spare car. And today what they've done is they've turned around and just taken the opposite car for, obviously, Sam Hornish. He's now out there in 6T. They took the motor they qualified with it, put it in his spare car, that's 6T, and the opposite holds true for Helio Castroneves, qualified the T car, the backup car, Rusty, and goes out there now in what they used to call his primary car, takes the motor and puts it out there. And the reason they do that is that they want to run the opposite car of being a qualified car, because if there's a problem with the car today, it crashes. They're not actually losing the car that's qualified for the Indianapolis 500. So we do have the option of running 2 cars throughout the month of May, but with only 1 motor. And then you and I got into that discussion, and you said, well, you guys don't have that luxury over there, that you generally only have 1 car. But, you know, we can replicate our cars. We put them on the pads. Those cars can be so identical, you can hardly even tell the difference of the car. And that's why we just basically have a spare and a T car. And you came up with, like, names for your cars because they were so different, like Buckwheat and Midnight and all these other things. And I looked at you and I thought, you guys are so different over there.
It's way different. And for the NASCAR fans that are listening to telecasts today, yeah, it might sound strange, but these fellows can take their qualified. They're allowed 2 engines for the month of May, Marty. Their 500 race engine and their qualifying engine. They can take their qualifying engine, put it in their backup car, and run and practice. And the cars are so identical, they can't hardly tell the difference at all between the cars, Scott Goodyear. Now, what's going on? They're going to run. So if they wipe one of these things out, they still maintain their original starting position, which is very, very odd to me. In NASCAR, if you wiped out your primary car and you got to go to the backup car, you're going tailback.
Well, we just saw, while you were talking, Rusty, a potential scary, frightening moment for Sam Hornish. Here would be our pole sitter if he's in his primary car. Let's take you back because he's approaching one of the A.J. Foyt machines. Gets a little dicey through here. If he crashes, and that's the primary car, he's now starting 33rd.
It's funny we're sitting here talking about that because exactly the reason. And Penske's about one of the only teams that seems to go to that extent to go ahead and do that. Yes, there's a lot of work to take out the motor from the qualified car, put it in the spare car or the opposite car, and that's the key thing. And this here's a perfect situation for that. Now, you guys, Rusty, you don't worry so much about that because, you know, 230 miles an hour, you touch wheels, and these guys have a problem. You guys, you just go up there and rub against your neighbor with your fender and sort of move your way through. So
you could
it's
do
a little
that.
different.
That's right. It is a little bit different. You can do that. And, you know, in our cars, Scott, they're not exactly the same. We try to build them exactly the same. We try to build them exactly the same, but there always is a little bit of difference in them. These cars are exactly the same.
And you know something? Let's talk about the reason why that is. These tubs that we have are almost like an aircraft, a fighter craft, you know, because they're Kevlar carbon fiber. They're built so strong, and you guys are still building the cars out of tube chassis. So in your situation, there's a lot of flex in those types of cars, aren't there?
We try to check the flex on the machines we've got, our twist fixtures, things like that. But there are differences, and we do try to minimize that so all the cars in the fleet are as close as we possibly can. But it's unheard of in NASCAR to qualify one car and say, let's get a different car and let's practice it, but we're going to race the other car. First of all, it's not legal, it's not allowed.
All right, guys, as we continue to see Sam Hornish motor around Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Jamie Little, you've got an update on Thiago Medeiros.
That's right, Thiago, the rookie, trying to put it in the field today. Wants to go for that qualifying attempt later on. Now, this is the deal. He's run 13 laps only in this car. His fastest lap was 2:13. That's nowhere near what they need. Actually, it was a 2:14. They want him to get consistent laps over 2:16. Now, I asked Paul Diatlovich, the owner, if there's a time limit on the seat time for Thiago before they pull him out and put somebody else in the car. He said there sure is. He's going to watch, give him a chance to get the car up over 2:16 consistently, and if he does, he'll let him qualify this car. Otherwise, guys, we could see Jimmy Kite jump in the seat.
So the pressure continues to build on 23-year-old Thiago Medeiros as he will be going back out on track in a matter of a few moments. Now, Dario Franchitti, as you can see, out on the track at 2:19, his fastest lap today. Vince, you've got more?
Well, this is a frustrated group right now. I just spoke with team manager John Anderson, and he says they're baffled. They just cannot find the speed that they need, and they certainly haven't found a comfort level with the race car. Of course, you're not going to find the speed if you can't find the balance, and he says they just don't quite know what is the problem that's holding them back, but they've definitely they're definitely getting the impression that Dario's patience is running short. Now, he's also made a comment about the wind, saying the wind at both ends of the track is creating some handling issues as well. But there's no question in 35 laps, 2:19.7 isn't going to get it done.
Yeah, the wind is coming out of the north, which means it's a tailwind going into turn 1. It's a headwind going into turn number 3. As you can see, Dario, they ought to be talking to Tony Kanaan. He is number 3 on the charts today at 2:24.5. Following, guess who? Helio Castroneves and Sam Hornish, Team Penske, in the backup cars. They're still at the top of the heap. Doesn't matter which chassis they throw out there. That is pretty darn impressive.
The last thing they need to have right now is frustration. Dario's been frustrated the whole month, and he's just got to hold course, stay focused, because they got a Dallara. The rest of the guys got Dallaras in the camp. You got one of them running really, really good. Probably getting close to time to shut them down and pull them in the garages and have a little meeting and try to figure out where we're at here.
Where we're at is at the top of the hour, and if you're just tuning in, welcome to our Bump Day telecasts presented by Capital One. As we have practice going on the racetrack right now, still one spot to fill, and Thiago Medeiros, we've been told, has just pulled out of the pit lane. We'll give you an update on his progress as there's a ton of pressure on that 23-year-old lad. I'm Marty Reid, along with Rusty Wallace and Scott Goodyear. Down in pit lane, we've got Jack Arute, Jerry Punch, Jamie Little, and Vince Welch. In fact, Vince, let's get another update on Dario Franchitti.
I just wanted to add something something to what Rusty was saying about Dario Franchitti, because the team was telling me yesterday that normally Dario is the one that really figures out the setup. He can come in and give the team and the engineers exactly what the car needs. His feedback is terrific. So when Dario is struggling, they're really baffled, and that's what they said. Dario can't quite put his finger on what's wrong or how to fix it. He just knows that the car's not comfortable, but they say when Dario is confused, that really is a major statement.
Well, there's 4 hours left in practice right now. It's about 2 o'clock here in Indianapolis, Indiana. They got 4 hours left. There's plenty of time to go back right now and get their heads together, because sometimes, Scott Goodyear, as you know, when you're on that pit road and everybody's screaming, it's loud, you get confused. You just need to go in a quiet room and sit down, look at your instrumentation, talk to your engineers, and try to make heads or tails out of this deal.
But there's also the pressure, and sometimes you feel like you're going down that deep hole. Remember, in years past, we've had some great teams, some great drivers not qualify this event for like Team Penske and Team Rahal before. And what ends up happening is that you just get lost. And this is a very difficult track. Because of the speed, it needs some aerodynamic setups. Because of the grip you need in these flat turns, it needs a mechanical setup that works very well. And you need to find a combination of both. And it can be very difficult. But the most important thing is the confidence of the driver. When we talk about confidence, we look at right now 23-year-old Thiago Medeiros, who right now is looking for that confidence because he has lost it with the accident he had the other day.
Thiago on the track in the number 18. Will he get up to speed? Will Marty Roth get back out on the track? He has yet to make an appearance. In fact, there is the car back in the Danica and the garage. I'm sorry, that's Danica's car. And we'll get an update on her situation when we come back. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's bump day, and our telecast presented by Capital One. That is Gasoline Alley. As out on the track, it is still practice. We're waiting for the final spot to be filled, and then the bump process will begin. You're looking at Sam Hornish Jr. He is our pole sitter. Right now, he has the second fastest time and speed of the day, but you can see right at the top of the screen, it's not by much. He and Helio Castroneves pretty much in lockstep.
As they have been all month, everybody's been chasing these Penske cars, and very close behind those, Tony Kanaan. We spoke about him this morning, so a great run for him. We saw Scott Sharp starting to come back out on the track, put some more laps on.
One person we haven't seen on the track for a while is Danica Patrick. Earlier in the broadcast, she had a problem. Let's get more from Jerry Punch.
Well, Marty, as you mentioned, she said that they had a bit of an oil leak right as we came on the air, and a near miss. Her car got a little sideways, and right behind her was her teammate, Buddy Rice, and she smelled something. Had she not slowed down, she could have taken herself and her teammate out. Back here in the Rahal Letterman garage here, still swarming over her primary car as they work. We'll talk with the Chief Engineer, Ray Leto. Ray, what have you found that's the problem with the car?
We had a leak in one of the oil lines going to the engine oil cooler, and we were putting oil out the back, and I think that's what Danica felt on the right rear, and that's, I think, what Buddy felt, too, following her that close.
Had she not smelled what she smelled, a little whiff of something unusual coming out of turn 4, what could have happened in one more lap at speed?
Well, I think, we're pouring oil out the back, either on our tire or the teammates, is not a good thing.
Now, what are the plans for this afternoon? How soon can she get back on the racetrack, and what are your plans for the remainder of the day in terms of practice?
Well, we should be back out here momentarily. I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. We'll start heading back out that way. The guys are getting the car buttoned up now, and we're going to use up the rest of the miles we have allotted to us, and hopefully we'll get out there while some of the other fast guys are still out running their race sims and get in the mix.
Hey, Ray, thanks for your time.
Sure, no problem.
Danica Patrick dodges a bullet here at 1 o'clock this afternoon. This car almost sideways with an oil leak, and behind her teammate, both lucky to be able to get back to pit road. Guys?
Absolutely, Doc, because remember, that's their primary cars that they did qualify for the race. If they crash them, can't fix them, they start at the back of the field. So let's talk a little bit about this. As a driver, you've had those situations where you were able to save your crew a lot of work. What's it mean to morale and to the crew?
Well, certainly it gives your crew a big boost because they certainly know they have somebody sitting behind the wheel that is really capable of driving the car. But the most important thing I think I hear out of that is that a year ago when Danica Patrick arrived in the scene, a lot of people thought, is she the real deal? Can she really drive the car fast? But what she just did there, regardless of how fast she goes, and she's a very capable driver, almost sat on pole here last year, remember? But as you know, Rusty, if you have your wits about you and you can concentrate on something like that and not have to concentrate so much in driving the car at 220 or 25 miles an hour and getting the car around the turn, all those things that we have to do anyways, but if you can sense something like that and just register all that, multitask that really tells you that she's really in control of her car. She's calm, cool, and collective inside that cockpit.
She's a smart gal, man. I'll tell you what, out there wagging the tail at 220 miles an hour, saying, hey, this thing's smoking a little bit to kick the rear end out. She knows what she's doing. You know, I told you guys many times, you're probably tired of hearing me talk about it. You know, when I ran with her the 24 Hours of Daytona, I knew right then she's the real deal. The way she's debriefing, the things she's doing, Marty, it's just, she's a pretty smart person.
Let's shift gears a little bit. You're looking at Dan Weldon and his telemetry. Right behind him is Scott Sharp, although Scott's starting to get a little more separation between the two, and I think that's Dan pulling away more than Scott letting him go. But as they continue to motor around, one of the other cars that is going to attempt to qualify, at least we think they are, they told us they are, is the team with Marty Roth. But we've yet to see him on the track. Vince Welch, what is going on?
Well, I'm standing here in the pit box that Marty Roth's car should be occupying, but for the last 3 hours, this pit box has been empty. His car has been in the garage. The chief steward, Brian Barnhart, went into Marty Roth's garage just a little bit ago to find out an update in regards to the status of the Roth car, reminding them they need to get out here on the racetrack and get some laps in so they can make sure they get their car up to speed. They're not going to just roll it out for 4 laps at a low speed and put it in the field here. Now, Brian Barnhart has not set a minimum speed. There is no minimum speed, but he's reminded me that a rookie must run consistent laps above 210, so don't expect any car in the field with a qualifying speed under 210.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, he's not out there for one reason. He spun out 3 times. He's been spending more time cleaning his shorts out than he has been getting out on the racetrack. I mean, think about it. 224 mile an hour, you keep spinning out? I'd be stuck in the bathroom going, oh my gosh.
That's what we call a depends moment.
I don't know the official laundry service of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll look into that. There's Thiago Medeiros. He's another one that's a little nervous right now. Stay with us. Indianapolis 500 Bump Day Telecast presented by Capital One on ABC Sports. Brought to you by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And the National Traffic Safety Administration. What a great view. That's the Indianapolis Zoo near Victory Field, where the AAA Indianapolis Indians play in downtown Indianapolis. Oh, looks like me, and is that you or Rusty Scott? Handsome devils, aren't they?
Handsome, isn't he?
All right, let's talk about the starting grid. If you're just tuning in, let's set the 32 cars that have qualified. Sam Hornish, Helio Castroneves, and Dan Weldon round out row number 1.
Round 2, no surprise to see Scott Dixon there along with Tony Kanaan from HER, and a bit of a surprise with Vitor Mira with the Panther team.
Koski Matsuura, Scott Sharp in the center row, and rookie sensation Marco Andretti.
Let's take it to row number 4. That's where Danica Patrick will be alongside Vision Racing's Thomas Schechter and Ed Carpenter.
In row number 5, no surprise to see Michael Andretti back. He wants to win this race. Buddy Rice won here in 2004, and rookie Townsend Bell.
Brian Harda on the inside. Good solid run for him all month long. Dario Franchitti very frustrated at the moment. And Mad Max Pappas ready to go.
And in row 7, former winner here at Indy, Eddie Cheever alongside the rookie P.J. Chesson and Felipe Giafoni driving for A.J. Foyt.
In row number 8, Jeff Bucknam, Larry Foyt, and Jacques Lazier looking to make a good race here.
Past Indianapolis 500 winner, Buddy Lazier. Jeff Simmons starts in the center. He's had a good run, a couple spins. He's a little scared right now, but he's coming out of that. He's looking good right now. And my sentimental favorite, Unser Jr. He's on our outside the row number 9.
And in row 10, it's Roger Yasukawa, Ayrton Dare, and Stefan Gregoire.
And in row 11, just 2 so far with R. Leindyke Jr., who got bumped out last year. He's currently in the field. P.J. Jones, 1 spot remains, and we'll have to wait to see who's going to fill the 33rd spot, Marty.
And maybe it will be Thiago Medeiros. Maybe it will be Marty Roth. That is Medeiros going down the front straightaway right now. We'll check him, and he is still up with his fastest at 215.9 miles an hour that last lap at 212. So he's still got some work to do. And you're
God, I'm cringing. That's high. That white line's there for a reason. Go get cozy with it. Just get up to it or something. I don't want to watch him anymore.
As Thiago continues to give Scott Goodyear heart failure, let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
And guys are even hiding their eyes down here watching that monitor a moment ago with Thiago Medeiros. I'm with the guy who won it here in 2004, Buddy Rice, who starts in the middle of row 5. And Buddy, what about what's going on today with your car, the 15T?
Everything's been going good. You know, we're just working a little bit more on race trim right now, waiting for the temperature to try to come up a little bit more. What's going to be closer from what we can see from the forecast. They're saying it's going to be hot around here, about 84, 85 degrees. So we're just doing a little more tank running, and we did a lot here last week and the last couple of days, so we're pretty happy right now.
What's the key ingredient for race day? Everyone talks about raw speed for pole day, but Dan Wheldon won this race a year ago starting 16th. You start 14th. What do you have to have here on race day to win this thing?
You got to have a real consistent car, and it's got to be easy to drive and really good in traffic. And, you know, if your car's easy to drive, I think it'll make it a lot better day, and you'll have a real good outcome, hopefully, come May 28th. So we think we got the number 15 Argent car right where we want it. We got some pretty decent speed for race trim, and we're going to have to wait and see. But we'll definitely be out a little bit more this afternoon.
Good luck on race day.
Thank you.
Buddy Rice won it from the pole 2 years ago. Starts in the middle of the pack this year. Wants to win it again as we head out to Jackaroo.
So, Jerry, what do you do when you qualify for your first Indy 500, right? You get the souvenir photos. You get a couple of bumper stickers. Your name goes up in the museum. If you're P.J. Chesson, you fulfill a promise made to the Alley Cats that are part of the culture here, and that's to get the Indy 500 logo tattooed on your arm.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here today. This is Rick, club tattoo. He's the man. He's just drawn the 90th running Indy 500 tattoo freehand on my arm, and we're now tattooing it.
I always wanted to know, does it hurt?
It hurts a little bit. Let's put something on him real quick.
No, I made the deal. I'll make a deal with you. If you win the Indianapolis 500 this year, the 90th running, I'll have your name tattooed on my right or left cheek of my glutamus maximus.
Did you all hear that? He's going to get my name tattooed on his right or left cheek if I win the Indy 500. Ooh, wouldn't that be a great day if we had to do that?
I always wondered what PJ stood for. I'm sure he'll use, guys, the entire letters of his name. Not that I don't have enough room. Fellas?
Oh, boy. Of course, his co-owner is Carmelo Anthony, the NBA star. And right after we get finished here at 3 p.m., of course, it is Game 7 between the Cavs and the Pistons. So as we continue to motor around, we're going to find out just how many letters there are in P.J. Chesson's name and if there really is space. Stay with us. Don't forget to tune in later today, 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The drivers attempt one last dash to qualify for the Indianapolis 500. The final hour of qualifying plus full analysis, the complete starting lineup. You'll see it all, 5 Eastern on ESPN2 today. Helio Castroneves continuing to motor around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he's doing a very nice job at 221.8 miles an hour on his last lap. He has been the fastest today at 225.2, and we just saw his teammate, Sam Hornish. They're dragging that car back into the garage area, so we'll get an update as quickly as we can, whether or not they're going back to make an adjustment, some kind of change, or if they're done for the day. Stay with us on that. Let's check in now with Jamie Little.
Well, Marty, the number 18 car is going to go back to the garage. They're going to make a couple adjustments. They're going to run it through tech one more time, bring it back out here. Then they're going to simulate a qualifying run. Now, they're going to run 4 consistent laps, see where they are, and if all looks well, and they can turn those 2:15.9 laps that they've been running, well, the last couple laps around here, then they're going to roll it up to the line and attempt to qualify this car. And Thiago Medeiros, we've been talking so much about you. You've been in the car the last 3 hours. What is today like for you? We're all talking about what you're going through in this brand new car. You've only had so many laps. There's a lot of pressure. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling comfortable. I mean, this is a brand new car. You know, you saw that those guys put everything overnight, everything together. We did a few laps. The setup, I mean, we pretty much put the same setup that we had before, but I mean, the car is a little different, was reacting different. We make them back, make a little change, and now that I'm feeling comfortable in the car, we're going to check the setup again, put in the pad, and then we're going to come out and go to the qualify.
You feel confident in going up to qualify for your first Indy 500?
Yes, I'm very confident now. I mean, those last run that we did, we're very, very consistent, and that's what's important for the qualify.
Well, Thiago Medeiros has been waiting his entire life to run in the Indianapolis 500, guys. When we come back in a couple hours on ESPN2, we'll see if he can qualify in the field. Guys?
And let's give you a little background on Thiago, because he is the 04 Indy Pro Series champion, and that is the series that feeds directly into IndyCar. And they'll be racing on Carb Day here in the Freedom 100, and he has won that race. So he's got some experience, but a little less horsepower, but he's still scaring you to daylights.
You know, you have to get down and get to that line. When we saw him just a moment ago, and your car width away from the line. First off, his car is probably not handling as good as it should, and maybe he doesn't have the grip, but you got to get down to that line, because otherwise you cost yourself room on the outside of the corner, and then you end up having to pinch the car coming off, and sometimes the back end wants to come around to you. The entry is the most important part of the turn here at Indianapolis. When you're entering, whether you're doing a 220 lap or a 230 lap, you have to have the entry correct, because that gets you to the center correct, and then you can drive the car off. If you're turning in either a bit too late or a little bit too early, and you don't have it consistently correct, Rusty Wallace, I can tell you at 230 miles an hour, you know, you go the length of a football field in 7/10 of a second. That's a lot of pavement you're eating up, and you don't have room on the outside of the turn.
Well, that's for sure. Well, but looking in his eyes, that's what I'm doing right now. I don't see fear. I don't see concern. I see confident. I'm okay. Let me out there. Yeah, he's got a couple little things he's got to tune up, get the car handled a little bit better. And yeah, we need to get him to the bottom of the racetrack, a little lower line around the track. But he's doing what he feels comfortable with the car. I liked his interview that they just did. I think he's a sentimental favorite today, that's for sure, guys. We're hoping it works out for him.
Now you see confidence in his eyes. You know why? He's 23 years old. He's not 30 or 40. He's not smart enough to know any better.
You keep doing that to me.
I know. I'm the same age as you. That's why you and I are up here, buddy.
Okay. All right, let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, guys, let me give you this Star Motorcycles Tech Report and concentrate on something that has evolved here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway called safety. It wasn't that many years ago, some 40-plus years ago, that Eddie Sachs and Dave McDonald lost their lives in a fiery crash. And that was the turning point for safety in all of American motorsports. After that point, concentration was put upon the fuel. They restricted the amount, now down to 30 gallons. They outlawed gasoline and went to methanol and developed this fuel bladder, this fuel-safe system that when a year later a car actually started to skid in the tail tank that was equipped with that, it went right down to the bladder and not a leak of fuel. Through the years, other things have been added as well. Most recently, these tethers to keep the wheels, especially in a severe crash, from becoming, in most cases, dislodged and maybe becoming flying missiles. And then, of course, in the office of a driver, if you go to the museum, you see drivers with rolled up T-shirts. Well, all of that has changed, starting with fireproof uniforms, utilizing the latest in space-age fabrics that will keep a driver safe for a number of seconds so he can get out of the car. Then inside the car, foam-fitted seats, contoured to the driver's actual body size and style. Of course, the 6-point shoulder harness, fireproof underwear, hats, and the most latest issue, and you hear it both in NASCAR and in IndyCar racing, the Hans device that is connected to a full face helmet. And a lot of people, Rusty, including you, may wonder, well, what do we do in case of a crash? There isn't a roll cage, right? Well, the car itself is a roll cage. The tub is the protective device. In fact, in NASCAR, you drivers have been doing some technology about creating kind of a modified tub or a cocoon inside the steel cockpits of these race cars that you run. Well, here, the air intake and this cocoon at the back end of the tub, that is indeed the roll hoop that protects a driver, like we saw several years ago when Buddy Rice got on his lid. I believe it was in Chicagoland. Guys?
All right, thanks, Jack. As we go back out trackside, it looks like there is the teammate Scott Sharp in front of Koski Matsura. And again, doing the same thing we saw Andretti Green Racing doing a little bit earlier, trying to help each other figure out how their cars are going to handle.
And the reason that they're out here running in tandem is because they can trust your teammate. You know that he's on the same agenda as you. They're trying to log those miles to see how the car works. As we discussed before, depleting the fuel. Scott Sharp's got 75 laps in now, starting his 76th lap today. This is the last day of practice for all these teams to get ready for the race before they go to New York tomorrow for that big promo for all 33 drivers at the starting field.
Scott, I got a question to ask you. In stock car racing, with some of the teammates I've had in the past, we would actually get on each other's radio frequency and talk back and forth to each other, say, I'm going to lead a couple laps, you fall in behind me. Will these guys do the same thing out here, the teammates?
The same sort of thing. It's usually done by the spotters, and those are the folks that are standing in turn 1 and turn 3 up the high top the stands, and they can actually see the whole racetrack. They communicate with their designated driver, and actually what they end up doing is relaying that information through the spotters right down to the driver. So same sort of system in NASCAR. Hey, we found something actually we have some commonality in. That's sort of cool.
Well, there's a little something different. You're telling me they got to go through the spotters. I used to just talk to the driver. So one layer right there you guys got in this sport, Alright, Scott.
We're very technical.
I saw that.
All right, let's get an update on Team Ganassi. Jerry?
All right, thank you guys. Back in the Target Ganassi garages, you'll see that both cars are here in the foreground. This is the Scott Dixon car on the setup pad. And as Jack showed you a moment ago, these cars are very technically built, but here's how they set them up. They put them on this pad, which allows you to weigh all 4 tires. They have strings they pull along the side. They measure everything with micrometers, not rulers. You're not talking about inches. You're talking about, very, very small increments here. Now, in the distance of the background is the Dan Weldon car in the back of the shop. Just came in from the track a moment ago. They also are going to make an adjustment on his car. Let's find out exactly what's happening with both cars as we check in with Barry Wanser. Now, Barry, what's happening first here on Scott Dixon's machine?
Scott's complaining about a loose car right now with these conditions. So with Dan's car, he's experiencing at mid-corner exit understeer. So they're moving Scott's car, making changes more towards what Dan's car is like. And Dan, they're going in a completely different direction, not necessarily away from or closer to what Scott's doing, trying to more to the middle of the road on the changes. So we'll just try something new on Dan and closer to what Dan's doing on Scott's car and see if he likes it better.
Scott told us a moment ago his car not nearly as good as what Dan has, and that's why they're going to make this move toward his setup. How radically different will Dan Weldon's car be now when you change it and go back out?
Well, it may be something that we actually haven't even tried this month. Certainly Scott's car with being loose is very difficult to handle in traffic. If you get the car to push a little bit, that's a better problem to have than loose. So right now it's pretty much undrivable with traffic. Dan's not having as much problem with the push, but he wants a more comfortable race car, so they're going to make a change. We probably, like I said, haven't tried all month. So
okay, Barry, thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Well, again, here the big concern is that possibly low to mid 80-degree temperature on race weekend has these guys really searching. And even Dan Weldon, as good as the car feels, are going to go radically different right now and go back on the racetrack in the next 20 to 25 minutes. Guys?
And we have not seen that kind of temperatures the whole month of May, so that would be a huge curveball to everybody. If you're just tuning in, we are practicing here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is bump day. Our telecast presented by Capital One. We still have one position yet to fill. That's Koski Matsura as he continues to motor around the 2.5-mile oval here on the west side of Indianapolis. As he continues to motor, we're going to motor just for a second, but come back. We'll have some fun with Helio Castroneves, and we'll catch up also with Dario Franchitti after this message and a word from our ABC station. Today, it's Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. LeBron James and the Cavs battle the Pistons with a trip to the conference finals on the line. It's 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on ABC, home of the NBA Finals. We're back here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Bump Day. Our telecast presented by Capital One. Practice going on the track right now. And let's get an update with Dario Franchitti's situation. Vince Welch?
Well, this Andretti green team has 5 cars, and right now the one that is baffling them all is the machine of Dario Franchitti. Dario, if you've got 5 cars, Tony Kanaan is happy with his setup. Why can't you put his setup on the other cars and make them work?
Actually something that we did this week a number of times. Normally it comes down to driver feel. Tony likes a slightly more oversteery car than I do. But at the moment my car is actually biased more towards oversteer than Tony's. We're still encountering understeer though. So we're not quite sure why that is. We're getting very different readings this week. We put the same setup on 2 or 3 cars and get 2 or 3 different readings. So we're confused just now, Vince. We really are.
Are you in the fine-tuning process, or is it way off?
Today we're actually in the fine-tuning, I think. We've kind of got a setup, we've stuck with it, and we're going to try and make it work. We're very close to having something we can race with, but it's still not very comfortable.
You see Dario with coal black hair, but he says there's some extra gray in there today, guys.
Well, no wonder. He's 15th on the speed charts, his best at 220.5. Well, earlier this week, Indy 500 champion Helio Castroneves took some very special passengers, the 500 Festival Princesses, on a tour of this historic track. This is going to be fun.
Hi, today I'm over here, one of the special places here in Indianapolis. It's the tour bus. Basically, I'm going to be the driver and I'm going to be the tour guide going around the track, which I have some nice guests. Follow me, I'm going to show who are the guests. Hello, girls. That's what I'm talking about. I guess this is a break. And I guess this is the drive. Hi, buddy. How you doing? Oh, here we go. Just in case, see? He doesn't look very happy, but that's okay. We're going to turn 3, and this place here is very important because in 2002, I was leading the race, and Paul Tracy was second, and yellow was on. I lift off, and Tracy kept going. And there was a big controversy because everybody thought that he won, but actually he only passed me because I lift off. Come on, PT, come on, man. Do you think I would let you go like last lap outside? Come on. You know, I think we should go and have a quick stop on the brickyards. I mean the brick. Yeah. But I remember in 2001 on the fence, I didn't know that you're so close to the fans, and the expression that you can see in the face, you know, of them, it's amazing.
Tony Stewart with NASCAR, do you think he's trying to copy you? How do you feel about that?
Good question. Tony Stewart, let's have a talk here, buddy. Well, no, honestly, I don't mind people doing that because they should enjoy, they should have fun. That's when I do it. That's what I'm doing, you know, I'm having fun. All right, we're moving again, and you guys ready to go home? I mean...
Do you get a lot of speeding tickets?
Next question? Yes, unfortunately I do. I think I drive really well in Miami, but the police don't think so. So, but I'm always late, and that's the problem, you know?
So, Helio, do you have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do. Oh, you're so nice, people. I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the ride. You like it? Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Helio.
See you next time.
I figured out how the guys can beat him. As you see the tour buses over by the Hall of Fame Museum, all they got to do is get on his frequency, start chanting Helio. He'll take his hands off the wheel, and he'll end up in the wall. But he's only doing like about 200 miles an hour slower in the tour bus. There he is, the two-time Indy 500 champion from 01 and 02. Stay with us. We still got a lot more coming your way. As practice continues, we still have one spot to fill at Indy. Memorial Day weekend means the greatest spectacle in racing. Join us here at the legendary Brickyard for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by Capital One. It's next Sunday, May 28th, noon, right here on ABC. And you can see the windsock as we still have one spot remaining to be filled here at the Speedway in the field of 33. As we get an update now from Jerry Punch on what is going on with Marty Roth's team.
Well, Marty, he's had the best good luck charm here at the Speedway in the month of May. We mentioned the fact that he's had 3 near misses here and been able to dodge the wall all 3 times. Right now, he's trying to get this car ready to get out to qualify. It is bump day, and he'd like to qualify or bump his way into the field. Marty, how close are you to getting on the racetrack?
We should be out in about half an hour, and we're going to go out and shake down the car, and we basically starting over again. And we've made a few changes, found a few things out with the car, and that were causing us a little grief, and we fixed them, and hopefully we'll have a good car for qualifying.
You said causes a little grief. That's putting it mildly. You've had 3 incredible near misses or saves here, and you said the front end's been sort of a hard to handle. What have you done here with the front end of the car to be able to get the car under control? As the folks at home take a look at your month of May with a wild one off of turn 2 where you loop it around, and then 2 more, including a near miss yesterday. What have you done to dial this car in? Or have you gotten some help from people?
Well, Vision Racing came by and gave us a heads up on what we had going on with the front end, and could have caused a little binding, and when they had the same parts that I had, and they had the same problem pretty much. So they've been great, and we appreciate all the help we can get right now. We're just trying to get this car up to speed.
Nervous at all about what has to happen in the next couple hours if you're to make this field?
Well, I'm just focusing on making a good car, and something that you can do a decent time, and not more than just one. It's, you know, you got to keep doing it for 500 miles. So it's getting a good, strong car that can last and is safe out there. It's not hold your breath for one lap and get a good time in. So that's what we're after. We're after a car that can do it at least 4 laps in a row, and which is what we're going to need for qualifying.
Okay, Marty Roth and the crew back here working. They want to get at 2:19. They believe they can comfortably run 4 laps at 2:19, which would put them solidly in the field. We head over to Jack Arute.
Well, Jerry, as the track goes yellow for track inspection, things are beginning to get hot back in Gasoline Alley in position A1. You know who occupies that, the ABC Building Supply team of A.J. Foyt. 2 cars in the field. You're looking at car number 48? Yes, that's right. We started at the top of the show and said there was a possibility that A.J. Foyt might enter a 3rd car. He said, please, I want to go to Houston. Please keep me from doing this. But all of a sudden, Jimmy Kite has showed up. You've been fitted in the car. What's going on, Jimmy?
I haven't just fitted. Just want to make sure I could touch the pedals. I mean, I haven't even talked to AJ yet, so just, you know, it felt good in there. I mean, hopefully they pull it out. And I'm sure now that you guys are airing this, every driver walking around here is going to be here pushing me.
Yeah, but you're the first. You know, you're the first, so you're okay there, right?
Well, yeah, I'm lucky so far. We'll just, you know, we'll see how it fits. You know, I mean, it's a long day. I mean, I haven't even spoke to AJ. I mean, I thought I was going to have to tell him I was going baby clothes shopping or something today. But, you know, I mean, we're here. Nobody else's name's on it yet, so we'll see how it goes.
Now, you've been waiting up by PDM's pit to see how Thiago Medeiros might fare. And is this an indication that you think that Thiago's going to be okay, or are you just trying to cover all your bases?
I mean, you know, Thiago's been doing a great job in the car, you know, when he was in it. And it just, yeah, I mean, it's bump day. I mean, I got to make sure I'm not sitting on the outside looking in when this thing checkered flags at 6.
Fellas, we put out an APB for A.J. Foyt. He's somewhere on the grounds. I think I'd better stay right here. What do you think?
Yeah, you better. And that reference to baby clothes shopping, if you haven't been with us throughout the weekend, Felipe Giafoni got the call last year from A.J. when he was shopping at Babies R Us. Stay with us. The caution on the racetrack right now is for a track inspection. Nobody had any problems. We're coming right back. Indianapolis 500 Bump Day telecast presented by Capital One on ABC Sports. Brought to you by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And Wagner Power Painters. Paint fast, paint smart. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, practice continues now. The green flag has gone on back on the track while we were in commercial break. Let's get an update now from Jamie Little.
Well, he's solidly in the field, qualified 18th. Mad Max Pappas is back in an Indy car for the first time since 2002, and he's back driving for Eddie Cheever in 2002. And Mad Max, I don't think there is any kind of car you have not raced, and you've been away from the Indy cars for a few years. Why come back to Indianapolis?
Indianapolis is one of the best race in the world, and it's an honor to be able to be here. You know, I spoke a little bit with Eddie, and we took out the 52 Sport Clips car because in 2002, my last time out here, we had mechanical problem, and it was not what we wanted. And right now I'm out of miles on the engine, and I told Eddie, you're such a nice boss. Can I run your car? And he said, not really. So I'm really pleased. The 52 car, they're running really well. We've been working a lot on race setups, and I told Eddie that the Sport Clips car is in a hurry. We're going to go to the front.
And he said yesterday, I was glad to kick his butt, my boss's butt in qualifying yesterday. Max Pappas is back, guys.
Yeah, I got him by 1 position on the starting grid. Now, if you've been with us throughout our broadcast today, you know that occasionally these two like to discuss IndyCar versus NASCAR. Well, we thought we'd give you a comparison between a Nextel Cup car and an IRL IndyCar.
Scott, I'll tell you what, let's do a little Cup versus IndyCar 101. When my car's not handling right, I'm going to make some adjustments on the next pit stop.
I can do all types of adjustments. I can change the weight of the car. I've got a weight jacker. I can reach over here and adjust my bars to change the roll bar on the front and the rear of the car if the car's not handling. I don't have to wait and come into the pits to have some of my boys do that during the pit stop.
You're telling me you can make front sway bar adjustments, rear sway bar adjustments, and a jacking device that actually puts pressure on the left rear tire from inside the car while you're racing?
This digital dash, I can see everything here, all the engine functions, some chassis functions, tire pressure. I've got extra buttons and knobs here that I can set my pit speed limit for the pit lane. I can change my fuel adjustment.
Go to yellow mix, yellow mix.
can do all these things here. I can get a squirt of water just by pushing a button on the steering wheel, Rusty. It's really cool. The steering wheel, about $25,000.
Well, Scott, my steering wheel here is about 15 inches wide. I can pull it back and take it off and put it on the dashboard so I can get out. But I'll tell you what, this baby costs about $200 for this steering wheel compared to your $25,000. Oh, man, you guys got it too easy over there.
Some sleek machine that I was in. I love that big thing that you drive. I call it a tin top now.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, you're beating me up all the time, aren't you?
Yeah, you both look so bruised. Hey, let's get the latest on A.J. Foyt. What is going on? We'll find out when we come back. There he is. Is he going to put another car into the field? We'll update you when we return. Coming up next, right here on ABC, Game 7 in the Eastern Conference semifinals, a trip at stake. This is a big one. You don't want to miss it. It's on ABC, home of the NBA Finals. Back here at Indianapolis, we promised A.J. Foyt. What's going to happen? Vince Welch. Let's ask him.
Well, A.J.'s been working with Felipe Giafone. He's already qualified in the field at 221.5. But A.J., as we're drawing near the end of the day on bump day, everybody wants to know, what's A.J. going to do? What are you going to do?
Mainly right now just concentrating on my race cars for Giafone and Larry, my son, because we're still out in the woods, and for some reason we've tried everything and we don't know what's causing the problem we got. We just can't seem to hit on it, and we're going to keep trying on that. That's more important than having a third car in a car race.
We saw Anthony moseying around, Jimmy Kite back hanging around your garage. Will you put another, and when will you decide whether to put another car in the field?
I doubt if we're even going to mess with the third car. I mean, we do have a third car, but we're worried about our main two cars right now, and that's all we want to concentrate on.
If by chance you did put a third, would Anthony be a candidate for that?
I don't think so. Anthony's under contract, you know, in his stock car operation. I don't want to interfere with nothing he's got going on.
Of course, Anthony Foyt, the grandson of A.J. Foyt, who's been a member of the field here before at Indianapolis. Jack?
Well, Vince, you've got the Marty Roth story that has been continuing to unfold. Mark, I know you chatted with some people trying to get a better setup. When are we going to see the car on the racetrack? And do you think you have the right setup now?
Well, what we were able to do with the other people is just to confirm some things, and just to make sure that we, that we're going the right direction. So we're pretty much ready to go. We're just finalizing the car on the pad right now, and we're going to be rolling out here in probably about 5 minutes. Body work's coming on right now. So,
is there a magic number for you?
Well, I mean, we'd like to be, we ran 17s yesterday, and I think we can do that again today pretty easily.
17s, Jerry, that's the magic number, at least as for now.
And 2 hours ago, Danica Patrick had a scary moment. She had an oil leak. The car's been back in the garage here. She just now has reappeared here onto pit road. She's going to get ready to go back possibly and get in the race car in the final minutes of this session, the final hours of bump day. Danica Patrick headed back onto the racetrack here momentarily. Guys?
All right, thanks, Doc. As let's check in quickly with Jamie Little.
Well, we're back at Thiago Medeiros' garage here. Last minute adjustments. Paul, what are you guys doing right now? When are we going to see you out there?
Well, basically, we spend 48 hours building a car that usually takes about two weeks in a shop environment. And just anytime when you're running cars at the speed that we're running here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, safety is always prudent. So we decided to bring it back in, put it on the plate, make sure that everything is indeed checking out okay. It does. We're going to make a few minor tweaks to it, send Thiago out, do a practice qualifying run. If the speed is there, we'll push him in line and go qualify him.
All right, Thiago Medeiros sitting back there, just had some lunch. You're looking at him there, and we'll see what happens, guys.
All right, Jamie, thanks a lot. There are just about a little over 3 hours remaining here on Bump Day. And later today at 5 o'clock, you'll see it here on ESPN2 at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific. Let's check the first couple of rows of this grid. You'll see it is Team Penske in the numbers 1 and 2 positions with Dan Weldon over on the outside of row number 1. In the second row, as you take a look on the inside, there is Scott Dixon, Tony Kanaan, and Vitor Meira, the only single car effort out of the top 19 qualifiers. And as there are the rest of the cars, we'll tell you that next Sunday at noon, it will be the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500 as ABC is online at ESPN.com. Search ABC Sports.
And then coming up next, Game 7 of the NBA playoffs, the Cavaliers versus the Pistons. For Rusty Wallace, Scott Goodyear, Jack Arute, Jerry Punch, Jamie Little, Vince Welch, I'm Marty Reid. Thanks so much for joining us here on ABC's coverage of Bump Day, our telecast presented by Capital One. We'll see you again at 5 o'clock on ESPN.